video, I will be addressing my experiences with quality assurance and the strategies that I've formulated for making fair and consistent judgments of student learning. For the purpose of this assessment, we had to mark 3 sample English assessments using the criteria provided. We then met up with a small group to perform a quality assurance exercise. During the exercise, we opted to follow Chris Blundell's Guide for Quality Assurance of Teacher Judgments. As suggested by the guide, our first step was to establish expectations within our group and ensure everyone had a clear understanding of our purpose and aim within the exercise. Secondly, we ensured we all had consistent understanding of the task requirements, the criteria, and the criteria requirement. We also discussed the discerning words and factors between the marks so that we were all clear on that.
Right, that's only 2 boxes in this whole criteria. See, whereas the rest of it...
Yeah, because I feel like they didn't use formal writing tone.
I think it's because the C is mostly, whereas I would say it's some use.
Yeah.
Some use.
Definitely not mostly.
We made sure each person had a chance to speak and resolved marking differences by rereading the criteria and looking at the evidence presented before all agreeing on a mutual mark.
And I suppose in the B column too, it's generally sustained use of accurate punctuation. You know, thoughtful use of vocabulary for effect, that's definitely that.
I'd be inclined to go B.
So I'd go B minus.
The red sample was B minus, blue sample was a C, and then green sample we decided on a D+.
Finally, we reflected on the marking process and discussed the kind of feedback we would give the students and what they could improve on in order to gain a higher mark in the future.
I was looking for the control over the structure.
Yeah, so there needs to be showing like a strong thesis and what their viewpoint is, and like obviously the body, introduction, conclusion, structure.
While on my professional experience, I was lucky enough to receive the opportunity to watch my supervisor perform a quality assurance meeting with his colleagues.
We will do a mark to just compare what we would give to one assignment. We'll typically just choose 2 at random and say, right, well, what would you give this for each of the dimensions that we're assessing? We'd compare notes. If we're wildly out, we discuss why that is. Most of the time, we've been working together for a long time, that's not the case, but occasionally we will have things where we'll debate.
So as a group, they took turns assessing the different work samples and checking that it aligned correctly with the criteria, and all the teachers were happy that they had successfully marked the assignments consistently and fairly across the year level. While their process was slightly different to the one I partook in during our quality assurance activity, the aims and the premise were very much the same, and that is to ultimately ensure an accurate and consistent mark throughout the board that can be clearly justified. This strategy has always worked well for him and his colleagues, and he agrees that it is an important part of the marking process. It's essentially a foolproof way for them to ensure that all teachers have marked accurately and have the means and evidence to support and justify their marks with the support of their colleagues. So the school I went to prac on also gives all students the opportunity to have their assessment remarked or cross-marked should they feel that they've been marked unfairly.
I did notice that in one of the classes you offered the students the possibility of like a cross-examination with another teacher. Is that something you offer to most classes?
All. So at the end, the sort of standard is that a lot of times we will have already had a compared results and looked at other students' work, and so we've generally agreed before it comes in. But if the student feels that they've been hard done by, or like they've got the grounds to appeal to one of the other teachers.
My personal strategies for making fair and consistent judgments in the future would begin prior to commencing the unit. So I would begin by collaborating with my colleagues to make sure that everyone has the same understanding regarding the content that will be taught, the assessment, the criteria, and the expectations. I would perform diagnostic assessment to assess my students' current level and discuss and make adjustments with fellow teachers to ensure all students are meeting the requirements in order to successfully complete the assessment. I would also implement formative assessments throughout the unit that could be shared and assessed alongside other teachers, as not only an indication of student learning, but also good practice for quality assurance. When assessing students' work, I would opt to assess individually before coming together to do a mark review and quality assurance exercise similar to the one that we practice in class. And as a final step, I would continue to allow the students an opportunity to have their work cross-marked or remarked should they feel that they were marked inaccurately.